Okay, so PinballX. So I'm actually in PinballX already. So this is what's called the front end. Am I streaming? Yes. Okay, so I changed my stream a bit, so I don't have the webcam on because you don't really need to see anything webcam-wise. Your vertical screen there on the left, that's your playfield. So what that's supposed to do is give you a description of what the table looks like, a table video. And then I've got the back glass, and then where you're seeing like the scores where it says highest score and stuff like that. That's the dot matrix display. So I have mine set up like a Stern machine. So basically those three screens there are how you see my pinball machine. I've got three screens set up. Some of the tutorial stuff I will go over. Hey, if you have a split topper, like a DMD and a topper, or if you only have a DMD, things like that. If you don't see me answering the questions specific to your setup, let me know. I'll try to answer the questions. I'm most familiar with 3-screen setups. I used to run it where it was 4 screens but on 3, like I said, the DMD and the topper, where I had a split screen, but it was still done with 3 screens. Adding another screen doesn't necessarily make it more complicated. It's just adding another screen. So that should be fairly easy. So again, yes, this is PinballX. There are multiple front ends. PinballX, there's Pinball Y. Hopper is a really popular one as well. I started with PinballX. I've kind of stuck with PinballX because this is what I'm used to. PinballX is updated all the time. Tom's constantly updating it. So a lot of things you can do in Popper, you can also do in PinballX. It's maybe not as visually stunning, let's call it. I kind of look at it as, if you're familiar with arcades, I look at it as the hyperspin of front ends. Popper in that sense, where you can do so much stuff to it, but it can be very overwhelming for the basic user. Whereas I find PinballX a lot more intuitive, it's a lot more basic, but you can still do really cool stuff with it. Yeah, so that's it. So PinballX, basically you can go through and you can select your different tables. So as you're flipping through the screens, there's a bunch of different media. So you can see that every time I switch to a new table, there's wheel art for it. There's a table video for it. There's a topper video for it. There's a backglass video for it. So all of those are separate media files that you can download or you can record yourself. So PinballX, I may touch on it, I may not because I haven't used it myself. There's a built-in recorder. Basically, it's a batch file that you can run in the background while you're sleeping or whatever the case is. It'll open up, it'll run the table for you, it'll record 30 seconds of your backglass and your table and your dot matrix and stuff like that. And then it'll close, it'll open up the next one, and it'll just record all those individual videos for you. But there's also a what do I want to call it? A data manager, a media file manager, where you can go into it, which I will show. You can go into that, and then it basically tells you this is the media you're missing. Terminator 2 doesn't have a dot matrix, or it doesn't have a backglass, or you can see I've got this backglass, which I downloaded and overwrote by accident. I don't like this backglass at all. I might want to switch that, so then you can go into the media manager, pick a different backglass, and swap it out as well. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you how to basically install it, and then all the different setups and configurations you can do for it to end up getting it to look like this. I will probably, now that it's up and running, I'll probably break it intentionally just to show you how I go through the problems that you're probably going to go through the first time with it, setting it up. All your screens are going to be on the wrong screen, the sizes are going to be all wrong, that type of stuff. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions beforehand, let me know. But other than that, I'll jump into it. I wrote down here, you can download PinballX from PinballX.com, or you can just Google PinballX Front-end. It'll take you to the GameX website. You do need a login and password, so you do need to register to the site to get downloads for it. But it's quick and easy, it's free registration. I think the one thing that Popper has that PinballX doesn't, I think you need to buy a subscription to their media manager. I think, again, I haven't really used it in the longest time. I think you have to download a subscription or buy a subscription, either annual or a lifetime type of thing, and then you can go onto the media manager and just click on it, and it's going to show you, hey, here's the 10 backglasses people have uploaded for this table, and then you can just click, 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 and download what you need. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my desktop, which is going to look ugly. Let's get rid of the stream. You guys are going to see my. Actually, let's minimize this. Hopefully, I'm minimizing and not closing. Minimize. Perfect. I've tried, so I didn't put the webcam on this one because I was trying to make all the screens as big as possible so everyone can see it as easy as possible. I need to learn how to speak better. Oh, so the first thing I was going to do was, the first thing I suggest doing is opening up your Windows display settings. So that, I guess I should talk while I'm doing it. You just right click your display. I'm using Windows 10. I don't know if that makes a difference, but this is a Windows 10 setup, so I guess what I'm describing here is for Windows 10. You're going to right click on your desktop, hit display settings, and that's going to take you to this screen. So if you've ever installed Pinup Popper, which is not the front end, but the PupPack player, I think I have that right. Nailbuster goes through and he describes how you set this stuff up, because you do need to have your screens in a certain way for PupPacks to work. It's kind of just a good rule of thumb to just do that normally, whether you have PupPacks or not. And I'll kind of go through those things. You do want to make note of which screens you have as which numbers, and then we can double check against PinballX and actually find out if the numbers that Windows uses are the same ones you would use in PinballX. You're going to find that the screens aren't always the same. So you can see here that my primary play field is screen 2. That may or may not always be the case, but it's at least a good starting point. So you always want your play field on the left. Personally, what I do, and you don't have to worry about the numbers, so the fact that my play field is 2 and not 1 is not going to ruin anything, so don't worry about that. And then how I have it, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, possibly. So my mouse is on the play field at the moment. When I scroll to the right, I go for my play field, then I go to my dot matrix, then I go to my backglass. So this is my play field, number 2, and then I move to the right, and then I hit my dot matrix. I'm going to call it a DMD, even though it can be technically a top or a DMD. Play field, I move to the right, I hit my DMD, I move to the right, and I hit my backglass. Okay? So that's step number 1. You want to make sure that you have these all lined up so that your X values are all the same, right? So basically, what I mean is all your tops are equal. You don't want, you know, like one being up there. You don't want them overlapped. Usually Windows is fairly good at snapping. It'll snap you to it. Most times, by default, I ran into this last week with other emulators wanting to be primary, like wanting to be the main display. Generally speaking, you're going to always have your playfield set up as your primary display. And I guess the other thing I should mention is, and you probably already had gotten this far anyways, but your main playfield is not rotated. So you don't rotate it in Windows. So that's why you can see on the playfield on the stream, the playfield, which is the vertical screen, you can see that my icons are sideways. That's because that is not a rotated screen. As I'm looking at it, that's actually how I see it on my screen with the icons sideways. That's also why I'm dragging my files up to the top onto the backglass, so I can see it a bit easier. So displays, a couple things you're going to want to make note of. You're going to want to always ensure that on all your screens, right here where it says change the size text apps and other items, you want to make sure that that's at 100%. Sometimes Windows defaults to 150 or something like that. Make sure you keep it at 100. It's good to note your display resolutions, because when you're setting up some of your files in the V2S settings in PinballX, sometimes it might say, hey, what do you want your X value to be? And sometimes you might want to know, well, I want it to be in the middle of the screen. You're going to want to know that your resolution is, 3840. Display, I think that's all you want for that. And there I have, make this my main display. So then if we go to screen number 1, it should show the same thing. I think I have these set up as 1920 by 1080, 100%, 1920, 1080, and then this guy, 100%, 1920, 1080. So that's kind of, let's call it the prep work that you want to do for this. And again, I'm kind of giving the tutorial as if you've never set this up before in your life. So I know some of you are already past this stage. But that's how you want to set it up. That's going to make sure everything's fine. I'm going to minimize it for now just in case. Let me go here. Where do I have it? Give me a quick second here. February 22nd. All the way over here, PinballX setup. So I can run this again. It's not going to make a difference because I've literally already ran it. But the PinballX, when you download it from the PinballX website, this is literally what it shows. It's a PinballX setup. I'm going to drag it on the main screen to hopefully make it easier for everyone. I do note, you can always, if you already have PinballX installed, to the best of my knowledge, it's safe to install right over top of that file. If you're worried about it, you can always copy-paste to make a backup. If you want to make your backup a little smaller, you can copy over everything but the media file, because all the rest of it is fairly small. So you can just select everything but the media folder and then back everything up. But I'm pretty certain, because I've already done this today, I'll be safe. So you can go through this. Oh, it's going to default me to the playfield no matter what. You might need to be connected to the internet to install it. It depends whether or not, I accept the agreement, it's going to depend whether or not you already have your .NET frameworks and your DirectX and your C++ redistributables updated, because it will ask to update those things, or if you don't have them at all, it's going to say, hey, you need to update this, and you need to make sure that you can download it from the internet. It's personal preference, but I just installed this to, basically all my programs I installed to the root drive. So // PinballX, and then I'm going to hit next. Again, sorry this is sideways. You do want to install the 64-bit version. I don't know any other way. I'm assuming most people are using 64-bit computers at this point, so install the 64-bit version. You can create a desktop shortcut if you don't already have it. Install the demo media. You don't really need to do. Light version is for Windows tablets, you don't need that. I'm not going to be able to help out on this because I don't have one. This last option here, install P2DMD support. So if you have a real Pin2DMD device installed, instead of, let's say, like a computer monitor or a TV monitor installed for your DMD, that's when you would click that. If you just have a regular, like I said, like a 3 TV setup or a 3 screen setup, then you don't have to worry about that. We're going to click next, install. Oh. So I did this last time. Long story short, I'm going to click this button and it's going to install. I'm going to hit cancel because I've already installed it, so we don't have to worry about it. But make sure you don't have any programs running in the background. I haven't ever had that window pop up before on any other version of PinballX, so I don't know if it's something new with the new updated version of PinballX. I haven't updated in it probably like 6 months. I don't know if it's something with the new version of PinballX that error pops up, but basically you just need to close everything and then you should be fine. Once it's installed, you're going to have your folder, see PinballX. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to muck up my config file. Let's copy paste it first just in case. So that's copy 3. I'm going to muck around with some stuff so that I can show you, hey, this is what it's going to look like, because I'm just going to call primary display is generally going to default to 1. So let's put 1 in there, and then DMD, I'm going to put 2, 3. And then there should be one that says topper, which I think is near the bottom. Topper, monitor 0. I think also in PinballX, I could be wrong, in this config, I think it starts with monitors 0, 1, and 2 versus 1, 2, and 3. So again, the numbers aren't super important. It's you just find what works. Generally, you're working with 0, 1, and 2, or potentially 1, 2, and 3, and you're just going to mix them around till you start. I'm actually shocked this worked. So the one issue that I've had, if you are going through this, or if you ever had a problem with PinballX, and no matter what you do, you can't, actually we'll see if this works, you can't force it to open up on your playfield. It's just, no matter what screen I pick, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's always going to a backglass or DMD. what you're going to want to do is make sure that your display for monitor whatever, display is your play field, right? You're going to want to make sure where it says window width and window height, you want that to match the resolution of your actual play field. So I'm kind of shocked that this works as it was, because I thought they would have to change that. But we're going to not for now. I just can't remember what this is, 3840, I think. Let me just see what this means. I'm going to write this down, because I always forget what the 4K resolution is. 3840, 2160. 3840, 2160. 3840, 2160. So I'm going to write that down and keep that in my back pocket just in case I need it. But for now, we're going to minimize that. I'm going to close this. And then we're going to run PinballX, because first we want to just see, what do I have to fix? So before, in my opinion, when you're done the install, it's going to say, hey, do you want to run the setup wizard? I always click no, because first I want to know what's wrong with it, what do I need to fix, what do I want to change, before I even bother running the settings, because you don't know what's already good and what's not. So when I run PinballX, I expect this to look like an absolute cluster you-know-what. And it is, which is perfect. Okay, so now you can see that I've got my play field on my back glass. I've got my DMD is actually in the correct spot, but my back glass is on my play field. So this is one option you're going to see in terms of, hey, it's not set up properly. Now I need to go and fix it. Okay? So there's two ways you can do it. You can do it in that config file that I just showed you, or you can go through the setup wizard. When I'm doing this, actually, you know what? We'll do it the easy way. We'll do it through the graphical user interface, which is how they want you to do it. But basically, I'm going to try and write down, because I can see how quickly I can get to the right answer. I'm going to just write on a piece of paper here. I'm going to say playfield on back glass. I'm going to say DMD OK. No, it's not. DMD is on playfield. My back glass is, I don't know. I don't even see my back glass. This, where you can see where it says top marksman, XRQ, or grand champion and stuff, that was something that I added to PinballX, and I just added it today. So pretend that's not there, because that technically shouldn't exist. You won't see that on your setup straight out of the box. That's an additional plugin. So where you're seeing the scores that obviously look like a DMD, that's not actually the DMD. The DMD is this thing at the bottom where it says Terminator 2 and Arnold shooting. It's in the top right corner of the playfield. So we're going to hit Alt F4. Okay, so back glass is correct. I saw that the back glass was in the right spot. Back glass is okay. I saw that the back glass was hidden in behind the playfield. So in this main C, PinballX, we're going to go to Settings. We're going to hit it, and it's a magic wand. There's a chance, and I'll show you what happens. There's a chance that sometimes when you open up this settings and you drag it around to different screens and whatnot, like if I were to have it here and then I would close it, sometimes you'll double click it. This is not the first time, but many times later, you'll double click it. Where can I show you here? And on the play field, it's probably way too small for you guys, but basically in your taskbar icons, you can see the little wand, but you can't actually see the window. So if you're not familiar with just Windows shortcuts, make sure you Alt-Tab to it, and you're on it. You're going to hold down the Alt, and you're going to press the space bar. And even if your window is not on the screen, you're going to see this drop-down menu show up. So I'm going to use my keyboard, or you can potentially use the mouse if you can see it, and you're going to go to Move. You're going to hit Enter for OK. You're going to press left and right on your keyboard, and now you can drag it around with the mouse. So you were able to see it, so it doesn't look like it did anything too spectacular, but sometimes if you close a window, and this works in anything, not just PinballX, but if you don't have one screen on and it defaults to a screen and you can't find it, just make sure you Alt-Tab to it, and then you press Alt Spacebar, go down to Move, hit Enter, left and right on the keyboard, and then you can drag it around. So I will go back and I'll go through all these other settings, but the first thing we want to do is get the display working. So we're going to hit Advanced, because that's going to pop up as many options as possible. I apologize, I do speak fast. If I'm going too fast, this is recorded and it is going to go up on Twitch and on YouTube, but if you're trying to follow along and you're actually trying to follow along live, If I'm speaking too fast, if you want me to repeat something, just let me know. The chat is usually delayed a bit, so I will see it, I will get back to it. But I can always slow down, I can always repeat myself. Click on Advanced, and then click on Display Settings. Okay, so what were my problems? Playfield is on backglass. Backglass. Okay, so we can see here, that makes sense intuitively. Main display, it says display 2. Backglass display, display 2. Well, we've already determined by process of elimination that our backglass is okay. So I know that backglass is display 2. I know my main display is incorrect. What do I know about playfield on backglass? DMD is okay, I think I'm back. If anyone can hear me, let me know. I do see that my lines are now working on. Got it. Perfect. Perfect. So I don't know how much of that was missed, so I'm going to recap very, very quickly. So basically, you had the visual. All I did was not random guess and check. I used some deductive logic. I think this display is here. I think this display is here. I think this display is here. Okay? Again, my DMD is not enabled on this because technically this middle is called a topper for PinballX purposes. Okay? Now I'll actually go through all these settings and tell you what they mean. Main display 3. Let's show you this stuff works first. Okay, so you can probably keep this open, but I usually hit the right arrow and then I hit X to close it. I think you can keep it open, but let's not, just to ensure that we're doing things correctly. So PinballX has showed up on my playfield. Perfect, so I got that right. The backglass is on the backglass and my topper is on the topper. So I got all three things correct. But the one thing I didn't mention, which I now will when we go through it, your, let's call it the puzzle of all your screens being in the wrong spot might have looked worse than mine, because even though I changed screens, I didn't change my resolutions and stuff. So backglass you'll see here with 1920 1080. If you remember, the first thing we did was go into the Windows display settings, which I think I still have open. Right, I went into the display settings. My backglass, which is 3, is going to say 1920 1080. So I'm going to type in 1920 1080 there. That'll make sure that it fills your entire back glass. If you have a 1366 by 760 or 766, 1360 or 1366 by 766, whatever, you would type that in there. Generally, you don't have an offset with the back glass because you're going to tell it, hey, go to this screen, and you're just going to want the XY position 0, 0. 99% of the time. If you have a dot matrix, that's generally where you're going to muck around with the X and Y and the width and the height because you're trying to actually get it to go to a specific spot on the screen. Or if you have a split screen DMD topper, then you're going to mess with that stuff. Again, you can see here my topper is at X and Y 0, and then my width and height match the same resolution that's on the Windows display, which is 1920 by 1080. So, to show you all this stuff, what this does, display 3, we already know what that is. That is now, again, Windows says it's display 2. This is saying display 3. Who really cares? It works. Who cares what the number is? Main display rotation, you want it 270 degrees. That might also be a reason that it's not forcing it to the playfield or it's showing up in weird areas. You want to make sure that that's set to 270 degrees. Because your TV, your playfield itself, is not rotated. You don't want it rotated in Windows. You rotate it within the software. I don't know why. I've been told by everyone who does know that it just works better. The software runs better that way. I don't know if it's a slowdown thing. Basically, I was told to do that by everyone, so I'm telling everyone to do that. I'm just following what I've been told blindly. 270 degrees back glass. Is it too late? Sorry, one quick second, guys. I just have a customer that's trying to call. Just doing a live tutorial on Twitch. Likely done by 10 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. 200, blah, 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 blah. What was I saying? Yeah, so you want that at 270 degrees. Back glass is display 2. Which mouse am I holding right now? Sorry, I got too many mice here. There we go. Okay, back glass display 2, rotated 20, use direct B2S in front end. I choose no, so must. How's it going on Painter? Use direct B2S in front end. So basically, when you're running VPX, when you're actually running the game, those are what's called active back glasses, and they will interact with your pinball playing. That's what you want for VPX. I do not use those in, what am I trying to say? I don't use those in PinballX. You can. If someone tries to tell me that it's better, great, I might test it out. This is just what I know. This will get you up and running. This will work. It does technically mean that you have to add one more piece of media, and it does mean that you're going to have less seamless of a transition. So there might be a perk to having B2S run in the front end. I haven't before. This is how I learned it. So that is something that I could always test if people care. So consider I put use direct B2S in front end, no. Auto position B2S, that's a no. DMD enabled. For my setup, the 3 screen with the full topper, that's a no. Always show DMD media, yes, all systems. Auto position DMD. I guess technically those could be no's because DMD is not showing. It's a who cares type of thing. Okay, hide pin main, yes. Window and running. So basically, if you were to run it through pin main without your front end and stuff, this window pops up and it's annoying. Basically, hide pin main, vpin main. What's it say? Pin main. It just hides a pop-up window so you don't have to see it. So you want that. Use pin main in front end. Actually, use a pin main ROM and display it on your DMD monitor. Why would you want to do that? So that's a no. Full screen, you want it as full screen windowed, yes. Crop wheel image, that's not really important. Playfield brightness, you can change this number to whatever you want. I'm actually going to lower it. I thought I lowered this in my last tutorial. Let's put it to here. If you find that when you're going through your front end, it just looks a little bit washed out, it could be your TV settings, it could be your computer settings, it could also just be the playfield brightness, which is specifically, so if you only find it too bright in PinballX, change it there, because it's an easy way to just change it and then it gets darker. Perfect. Enable game exit images. I actually don't even know what that is. Show date and time. This is a new thing that you can set up. Show the current date and time in the top left. You know what? I'm going to put that on just for fun. I don't know why, but some people care about that. So they integrated it, show date and time. It used to be a plugin, now it's not. Or it's still there, I guess, but now it's just integrated. Underlay image type. Original scale format, stretched underlay images. I actually haven't messed around with that, so I don't know exactly what it is. These ones are just personal preferences, this black, white, and orange and stuff. You can fiddle around with it if you care. A lot of this stuff it's user preference, and some things are just, I call it like, who cares? Like, yeah, if you want to change the menu color from orange to something else, great, you can. I'm not going to demo it because it's who cares. So that should be good. Apron, I put this on just to test out what it is. I would suggest don't. There might be a reason that you have it if you have a certain type of setup, but it basically just puts a static image on your screen, and I don't know why you would want it there, so I've disabled that. So now that we've made all those changes, I'm just going to back out. I'm going to show you how it looks now. So the only thing that whoops, I can just do it through here. We don't need this anymore. So the only thing that should have changed is now I'm going to see a date and time, supposedly, somewhere on my screen. There we go. Now everyone can see that I have my time zone incorrect. So if you want that there, I guess it's an option. You can have your date and time. So I guess if you exit a game and you're like, hey, I wonder if it's time for me to go to bed, now you know. But, and I will, you know what, I need to write this down because I will show you plugins. Plugins, DMD, and media. So in making this video, I said, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff actually with PinballX that I've never done, I've never integrated, I've never learned how to do. I'm going to learn some of this stuff in the video, and some of it's actually really cool. Again, like there is so much stuff in whether it's your front end, or the amount of games that you have, or the number of games, or whether you want alt sound or alt color, or you want to change your wheel image. Eventually, I'm going to be changing all my wheel images to animated wheel images. So I don't know, maybe this T2 one, his eyes glow red because it's an animated GIF file or whatever. You guys in the chat can have an angry debate whether it's GIF or GIF if you want. So there's a lot of cool stuff. A lot of it is not necessary. So a lot of the stuff, I want to try and show you the basics. I am not an expert by any means, so there are definitely things, hey, you could have done this, or there's this to add, or you can do this. Like I said, I've never used PinballX to record my media. I haven't really used PinballX to download media other than the very first time I did it, and I just went and downloaded a whole crap ton of media and basically created a repository for it, or found repositories on the internet type of thing, and then I just drag and drop stuff as I need it, or if I need one-off things. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. So let's close that out. Let's go back to the settings, and then we can walk you through all these settings and what they all do. So I'll try to go through as much as I can and show you all the different options. The main point of this video, let's get PinballX running. Let's integrate it with, because I obviously haven't started a game yet, because even if you tried to start a game, it wouldn't run because it has no idea where do I go. You probably actually even have an empty database. I will because I don't think this is not legit, I will on the YouTube video, and I think I can add a description to Twitch as well, I will add my database to it. So I downloaded a raw, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's go to databases, Visual PinballX. So it's an XML document, and it just goes through and it says, here's, I don't even know how many, let's just say 850. Here's 850 games. This doesn't mean that you have 850 games, or if you put my database on there and click enabled yes, that magically these games are on your system. This is literally just let's call it a table of contents, right? So the very first one in here, I'll just go through it with you, GoldenEye. And then you can see where it says enabled false. I may have GoldenEye on my machine. I may have disabled it because I played the game and I'm like, you know what, let me just see. Just for fun, we'll go to tables. Is this my tables? Yeah. Let's go 007. There you go. I have GoldenEye on my machine. So this either means I've tested it and didn't like it and I just didn't think it was very good. It wasn't up to par, which I think is what my actual decision was. But I didn't delete the game. Or I haven't tested it yet. So I always put the tables on. I might take the time, if people are interested, in showing how to integrate a game into it. Although I've done that before, I can do it again. I'm getting a little bit off topic. But that's where you would go enabled. If I do want to see it, you know what? Let's just show you this. If I go enabled true and hit save, Alt Tab, let's go back to Visual PinballX. So if I upload that database and you put this database and you drag and drop it over, you will have exactly what you see on mine, you'll see on yours. Again, just because it's there doesn't 007 GoldenEye. So there you go. So now you see that it's in my front end. You can see, do I have a wheel? Nope, I don't have a wheel. I don't have a table video. I don't have a backlash video, but I have a topper video for it. So I'm missing all the media, but if I were to hit enter, which I won't do because I don't need to right now, the game would actually boot up. It's not going to boot up if you copy my table settings because you don't necessarily have these tables. But I am going to copy my database. I forget where I downloaded it from. I hope it was a legit source, but it basically says, you know, here's all the 1,000 different tables that are out there. And then you just enable or disable what you have. I liked this method that I was able to download it, because then if I got a new table, I could just search for it. Because there's some default tables that have always been there, and when you download them from the, you know, like VP forums and stuff like that, generally it's already named the way you want it. If you download it from there, you probably will download a table called ACDC JP Sal's 2012. So you just download it, you put it in there. This is most likely already named the way it is. If not, you can just edit it. I'm going to show you the actual game manager that you're supposed to use to go through and edit it. This is, let's call it the back end method, but there is a front end for it. And now I've completely lost where I was and what I was supposed to talk about. Install close, don't run up, go to Windows, Trojan, if you have blah blah blah, proceed to screen scene, backlash. Oh, I was going through all this stuff, I think. Give me a second, I just want to see if I got lost as to where I was. I think I was just saying, hey, I was going to upload the database file, and that's why I'll tab to the database. So now we're going to go back. Let's start going through all this stuff. Again, when you go to the welcome screen, click Advanced. Custom select, nothing in there. Search, nothing in there. General settings. I am giving the tutorial, assuming that you were playing this on a vpin. You got it set up so that you have your 3 screens. Desktop mode I'm not as familiar with, but if you were just running this on your desktop, let's just say you had a computer and you just had one screen in front of you. Desktop mode, you want to go desktop enabled, yes. I'm going no because I've got a vertical screen in front of me and then I have 1 or more horizontal screens. File matching. As far as I know, basically what that is that if you have a whole bunch of media and it's just slightly named differently, it's going to assume that Batman, maybe you named it by accident, is going to be the wheel file for Batman, right? I believe that's what that does. Wheel overlay, you can overlay wheel images with the system. So that was when we were scrolling through and you could see the wheel. The wheel, by the way, is that arc that was on the bottom showing the games. Basically, it's saying, hey, if you had that picture of the Terminator and stuff, do you also want me to put Williams in the background? I think it's clunky. It's just extra. You can if you want. I choose no. System list. This was actually something, I'll show you this. Enabled, yes. Enabled, yes. So I'll show you what that changes. And if you were familiar with my last video, you're going to see what it did here. So if I go to PinballX, so I said, hey, show me all the systems. We haven't set up the systems, so I'm kind of skipping ahead, but this will show you what that is. So now let's say you had, I was showing this is what I was using for my guns, but if you want to have FX3 and FX2, but you want it separate, hey, if I want to play an FX3 game, I'm going to go to my FX3 menu, and then only show me FX3. Or if I go to my Pinball FX2, I only want to see FX2. So I had MAME horizontal set up, I've got Visual PinballX, Sega Model 2. Again, I was doing this for my vertical shooters and stuff. But that's what your system menu is. And then I'm going to hit enter, and now I'm actually in Visual Pinball, and it's only going to show me Visual Pinball. I think I hit escape. Yeah, so the interesting thing is I don't even know how to get out of this now. I'm sure there's a button. I haven't set that up. You should be able to back out of this and, let's say, get back into FX3. But I don't know what it is. But I'm sure it exists. So that's what that option is. We'll turn that off because I don't want that to happen every single time. Systems list, enabled, disabled, show and startup, disabled. Oh, and then I should show you that. Whoops, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Show additional detail. When browsing tables, add additional, can be displayed including system. Yeah, show system. Basically, if you have that on, it shows you extra details. This one-click launch. This again, user preference. If you have this as yes, which is how I have it defaulted, I'm going to show you what no is. But if you hit yes to this, basically when I saw AC/DC and I hit enter, or I hit the button on my vpin, it just goes directly into the game. If you click yes on this, I'll show you what happens. We're going to close this. We're going to go into PinballX. Alright, so we're going to hit. It didn't save. So normally what would happen, I found this happened last time. Sometimes the setting saves, sometimes it doesn't. It normally will pop up another menu, let's call it, and then it says like, hey, do you want to add this to your favorites? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And it also messed with my table loading videos, which is weird. So hopefully I can get that back. And then you just hit escape. All I did was hit escape because I didn't actually want to load the game anyways. You can see that, well, you'll find out when it exits. Basically, when you're running PinballX, you don't want to have other stuff running in the background, because right now you can see that my backglass isn't showing. That's because I have Windows Explorer open, so you don't normally have Windows Explorer opening while you're doing this stuff. Did I close settings? I did. Again, I like the one-click start because it just boots you right into it. Oh, it's because I changed it to yes. One-click launch table, yes. Never mind, it did exactly what I asked it to do. If that's a no, I'm going to put it to no because then if I show you something else, I can show you that at the same time. Add missing tables. This is that if you click on here and you go in-game manager in front-end, if you have tables in your tables folder that aren't in your front-end, they're going to show up automatically. Like it's kind of like a prompt, hey, I'm not in your game manager, do you want to add me to your game manager? Again, I don't like that because I'll temporarily put tables in there, and then if I don't like them, I don't necessarily delete them, I just leave them there. And that way when I download a new version, I can always see, hey, is this a new version of the table? And then I can just overwrite it. I'm not re-downloading it or putting the backglass in the folder again. Personal preference, I just don't do that. Basic menu mode, no, and then loading media, use loading folders. Let me do something quick. I just downloaded this, so I didn't have it working perfect. So here where it says table loading media mode, if you have, so I can show you what I have in my media folder. So if we go to media and we go to Visual PinballX, whoops, we don't, it's just in here, loading videos. So just in the PinballX media, loading videos. So every different table I have has its own loading video. By default, without the plugin, PinballX will just randomly pick a video. So even though I clicked AC/DC, it's not necessarily going to show me the AC/DC table. There's a plugin you can get so that it will actually pull up the AC/DC table. There's a chance, actually, I just realized, there's a chance that it was working properly. Shoot, I should put it back. But I didn't actually have this table named correctly. Yeah, because I can see right there, I don't have an AC/DC Lucy Premium. So I didn't have that file. That's why when I picked up and started AC/DC, it didn't show the loading video. So now that I know that wasn't actually PinballX's fault, I can go back into the plugins, which I will show you. I'm skipping ahead for a second. Whitewater I tested, so I'll go to Whitewater next time and show you that. But basically, if you have loading videos, if you're able to find those, then you would say use loading folders. If not, you can use playfield images. Display settings, we've already done. Audio settings, you don't really have to mess around with. Sound and videos, you would want yes. GameX Online. If you have a GameX, remotely from Pinball from any, this feature also needs Pinball download service allows for searching and downloading media. Yeah. So if you have a PinballX login, like I said, I believe it's a subscription service, which I'm pretty sure I bought. You could put enabled yes and then type in your user ID and password. And then you'll be able to go to the media manager and download tables directly from there. Popper offers that for free. So if you have Popper, you can also download the stuff there. But as far as I know, PinballX and Popper, even though they use the same media, it's different. Like PinballX will be, let's call it at 270 degrees, and then Popper will be at 0. So if you have all the media downloaded for one and you want to switch to the other, you'll have to run like a batch converter to turn the tables upside down, different things like that. Startup settings. Enable startup sound. So you have the option when you start PinballX to load a startup sound or a startup video. Again, customization. I turn my videos off. If you do turn the videos on, just remember that it plays them in 270-degree rotation. So if you were to just play, let's call it like a regular movie file, and it opened that up, it's going to be sideways on your screen. So you want to make the video in vertical orientation before you choose it, or else it'll just look sideways. Start with Windows, no. I haven't ever done it through PinballX. You probably can. I can show you what I end up doing. Run. So I just hit my run, and then it's shell, I think that's called a colon. Startup. Start up. And then hit enter. So this is your Windows startup, let's call it. I throw PinballX in there, and I do it that way. I don't know if there's a benefit of one versus the other. I heard a rumor that when you do it this way, Windows automatically has something built into it that it has a certain amount of wait time that when it loads into Windows, you'll actually see your desktop for a certain amount of time because it wants to make sure that all the files it needs to load with Windows loads with Windows before you start one of your programs. So I don't know if this is a better way to do it because this will actually wait for Windows to load what it needs to load versus PinballX saying, hey, as soon as Windows loads. I don't know if there's a difference. This is how I do it. It could work both ways. Run program on startup. There might be something. I know that there was a program I used before and then people say, hey, use this. Can't remember what it's called, but it basically, it's supposed to optimize things for plain pinball, but it messes with DOF or something. But if you want to run a program on startup as well, then you can put it in there. You don't need it. Keyboard input settings, you probably don't have to change anything. I leave it as it is, but this is just so that if you're looking through it, you know, hey, if I want to go page left, page right, if I want to exit the emulator, if I want to grab a screenshot, there you go, grab videos, so you can hit V, I think. I should try that while you're in the game, and it'll capture the video for you. Volume up, volume down. So some of those things are good to know because you won't always have all those buttons, keystrokes mapped to buttons on your vpin because you won't have enough buttons for it. So those are good to know, but you don't use all of them. If you ever accidentally hit R on your keyboard while you're playing or while you're in PinballX, you'll notice that your screen will rotate. So don't worry, don't freak out, just keep hitting R and it'll rotate it. Because sometimes you'll think that PinballX is in the background and it's not, so if you're editing your table file or your config, the game manager, stuff like that, so sometimes I'll do that and PinballX is still running. PinballX will always grab keystrokes even if you're in Notepad. It's always like PinballX is always on top. Yeah, so in false true. Yeah, so if you ever change a false to a true, that's when I kept hitting R. If you're changing, enable false to enable true and PinballX is open even though Notepad is in the front, it'll start rotating your screen. Joystick input settings. If you have a keyboard emulator like a Zero Delay or an iPack, I'm not familiar with all of them. Zeb's Plunger, a lot of them will default to a keyboard, right? Because a lot of programs by default want to see a keyboard, or some of them might be a joystick. It kind of works either way. I use a USB encoder, so mine is as a joystick. So you can see here when I hit a button, I'll do this one just to show you the top. I don't want to break these, even though I don't think it will. Joy code 1, button 1. I'm going to hit this guy. Yeah, and it's going to say press a button. I'm going to reach under my cabinet, and I'm going to press a button. It says joy code 2. I hope that doesn't matter, because I only have one on here. But I think it'll still be fine. But you're going to go through and you're going to map all your different buttons. So you're going to hit left, and then you're going to hit the button. You're going to hit right, then you're going to hit the button. And then it'll say that. But that's as easy as it is to map the things. I guess one thing I didn't... Whoops, why is my screen going all weird? I think we're still good. If we're not, let me know. One thing to remember, PinballX and VPX are two completely different things. So when we were setting up our screens... Sorry, I'm just looking like my stream is frozen. I'm gonna minimize this. I don't know if that's me or... Let me know if you guys are having interruptions with the stream. If not, I'm going to assume that everything is good. Let me know if you see something different. Where was I saying? Mapping the buttons. Yeah, mapping the buttons is basic. Oh, VPX and PinballX being two different things. So setting up the screens in PinballX, I'm probably going to do a VPX tutorial next week. Setting up the screens in PinballX has nothing to do with setting up the screens in VPX. Two completely different things. Same things with setting your keys in PinballX has nothing to do with VPX, okay? So you could say, hey, why does my back glass work in PinballX and then I go and I run VPX and my back glass isn't there? It's because they're two completely different programs with two completely different ways to set up your screens and stuff like that. So one thing to remember, or else you'll frustrate yourself because you don't know why things don't work, your front end has nothing to do with VPX or Pinball FX2 or FX3. Totally different programs that are independent of each other. The key mappings don't go over into each other other than like your exit button. The screens are a completely different setup. Everything is a different setup. Joystick input settings, press this button, hit your button, Bob's your uncle. That's it. You don't have to use joy to key. Let me just make sure, I just want to make sure that my YouTube, I'm going to, video paused. No, I'm going to stop the music. That's fine. Maybe that makes the stream better. What was I saying? I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sure it was super important. Anyways, moving on. Text. This stuff is all just personal preference. Type that stuff in, change it if you want. Do you know what I mean? It means absolutely nothing in terms of setup. Future Pinball, I don't have installed, enabled, no. Visual Pinball. This was, let's call it a mistake. It was a mistake I made early because I first set this up back in the day of Visual Pinball because I saw this, which I think is the default. Like PinballX just already has this stuff already set up in there. Executable vpinball 994. And I'm like, oh, okay. But Visual Pinball 994 is garbage compared to VPX. So it's like I have all these different VPX, different versions in there. And you technically have to run different ones for each different version of PinballX. So I didn't install Visual Pinball here. You can. Executable, you would change that to vpx.exe or whatever it is. If you want, just do what I'm about to show you and copy it over to this screen. What I ended up doing is I went to Other Systems, and you can see that I named the system Visual PinballX. So here I had one, Visual Pinball 995, right? Which is the exact same stuff, except the executable is vpinball 995. If I go to Visual PinballX, Everything is the same except the executable is called vpinballx.exe. There are certain things you're going to want to make sure are on here because that's what's going to make sure that when you hit enter, it boots you directly into the table versus opening up VPX and then having to go file open, clicking the table. That's the whole thing we're trying to avoid with the front end. So you have to type some stuff in to make sure it does that. System, select system. I typed in Visual Pinball X. I named it myself that way. And that will interpret, whoops. Give me a second there. Minimize. That will determine, I guess I should say, when you have here. That's why I've got so many of these stupid databases that I need to go through. So there's the vpin 995. There's Visual Pinball X. There's Visual Pinball. So I don't use this one. I don't use this one. I don't use this one. These are ones that I put on that I'm going to delete. Sega Model 2, FX3 Arcade. I can talk about that, but Pinball Arcade gone. MAME Horizontal gone. MAME gone. Future Pinball. Those will all be gone. They just take up room. Or not take up room. They just take up space. So Visual Pinball X enabled, yes, system type Visual Pinball. So you can either do that, Future Pinball or Custom EXE. We want it to be Visual Pinball. Working path, again, if you go and do the baller installer, this is the one thing I don't like about the baller installer. And it might just be because, so I always used to use the baller installer. I've stopped using it because I don't like that it does this. I don't think it lets you install to the root directory. So when you use the baller installer, it forces you to go to C and then maybe like vpinball, I think it is. And then in the vpinball folder, there's Visual Pinball, there's Pinup System, there's Future Pinball and stuff. I like them being in my root directory. But then, so then I would move everything over to the root directory, but all my pin name is already set up to be in C, vpinball, Visual Pinball, and you would have to go through and edit it and stuff like that. I could be wrong, but I would really love if the baller installer just allowed you to install right to the root directory, because then you wouldn't have to do that. And I think a lot of people end up putting, I don't know what the point of that extra folder is. It's just an extra subfolder you have to deal with. Working path, Visual Pinball, that's where I put my Visual Pinball. Table path, Visual Pinball tables, executable, vpinball exe. Again, there's like little folders that you can click here and just click on the exact file. This is the important thing. I'm sure you can copy paste it off the internet or you can read it off here. But basically you have to type in a certain parameter that says /play table path table field. That will make the actual game load up. This is one thing that I tried to say, I don't remember if I put that in when I was first learning, but there is an AHK file, which I am not familiar with at all. It's auto hotkey and it does something. I think it's computer programming language, blah, blah, blah. There's this folder here, WinActivate, and it says launch before, so it says like, hey, when you're launching this table, run WinActivate in the background. It's the silent program that works in the background, and I think what it does is it makes sure that the game always loads up and it's like the top window because some people complain like, hey, I actually have to click on the table before I'm able to add coins, like I have to make the table the active window. I think this is what stops that from happening. So I don't know if this is something by default that comes with PinballX, or if this is something I installed 4 or 5 years ago. But if not, they may have also, when they updated, because now we're on 10.7 for VPX, and PinballX has gotten many revisions. This may be unnecessary. I don't know. I have no clue. But mine's there, and it's there, and it works, so I don't muck with it. Pinball FX2, you're basically the same thing. You're going to put your program files, you're going to put your working path for your Pinball FX2. FX2, again, so here's kind of like let's call it a code that you have to put in. App launch. I don't know what this stuff means. But anyways, that's what you put in, and it makes it work. So that when it pops up, it goes right into it. Pinball Arcade, I don't have, so then I just put that to no. Other systems, so I showed in my last video, like if you want MAME, then you can put MAME in here, and MAME pops up on your play field that have that. MAME horizontal, if you want horizontal games, for people that like playing with joysticks or game pads in front of the vpin, they can put that stuff in there. Model 2 I put on because I wanted to show, I was setting up guns and I wanted to show shooting games and stuff. So you can add other exe files to your front end if you want. That's good. Menu applications, that's blank. I don't even know what it is. Video recording, haven't used it before, but you can set it up so that it can record your stuff. Attract mode is a neat feature. So enabled, yes. Mute audio, no. Show high scores, yes. That I might not need anymore because I've got this plugin. The timer 3 minutes and show game for 1 minute. So what that is if you just don't touch, if you're in the front end and the games are scrolling through and you do absolutely nothing, after 3 minutes of it being on your main, I can change that, it can be whatever, it can be 1 minute, it can be 2 minutes. If you just let it sit there, like let's say you walk away, you're making yourself a coffee or something, then it will start automatically scrolling through the games because the audio doesn't always loop. So maybe after 20 seconds, the table audio just kind of stops. And then it would just sit there, not making noise, and it's just showing AC/DC, 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 and nothing's happening. So this, after 2 minutes, it just randomly scrolls to another game, and then it doesn't load the game, but it just loads all the videos for it. So the screen is always changing. They call it attract mode because it's supposed to like attract people to the machine. Hey, come play me. Look at me. I'm making noise and I'm flashing and doing all that other stuff. And then it's saying, hey, show each table for 1 minute and then go to the next table, next table. Track mode, I have it enabled. If you don't want it enabled, don't click enabled. Auto exit, you can hit yes if you want. So basically, if you're playing a game and it doesn't have any key presses, so if it's just sitting there, because maybe you're taking a phone call or something like that, you may want it on, you may not. I didn't honestly know this was here. You can have it so that it automatically exits the table after X number of minutes. You can say 10 minutes, you can say 30 minutes, right? You're probably not walking away from your game after 30 minutes or for 30 minutes, not touching a single thing, and then crying in your soup because you came back and the game's not on anymore. So what it does is it puts you back in the system, and then you would be back into a track mode, and it just goes in circles through games. Okay, auto exit screen enabled, yes. Here you can set enable shutdown. So if you didn't have this enabled, you would never be able to exit your front end unless someone had a keyboard and pressed Alt F4. So that's, let's call it kids mode or parental lock type of thing. If you had this enabled as no, then you wouldn't be able to hit your back button on your, I don't think on the keyboard or on your vpin to say, hey, do I want to shut down the computer? Do I want to restart the computer? Do I want to close out my emulator and just go back to my desktop? If you hit no, you don't have access to those things. You would have to just hit Alt F4 on the keyboard. So again, if you hid your keyboard from your kids and you turn that off, it would just stay in the front end. They can't muck with anything. They wouldn't be able to get back to the computer and stuff like that. So again, I'm going to call it a child safety feature if you want. Exit program enabled. Oh, that's saying, hey, when you close it, do you want some program to open? Well, maybe, probably not, but you could say yes, and then it just automatically opens Notepad, and then you close PinballX and Notepad opens. I don't know why it defaults to that, but it might exist for someone. You can hit verify setup if you want. I've never actually done it. It's going to say, hey, some of these things exist. So it's going to say future pinball, blah, blah, blah. Can't find it. Well, it's because I don't have it. It's shocking it even says Zakaria pinball. Like those things I don't have them installed, so verifying other systems. Anyways, it says it's finished. Great. Who cares? Exit. Maybe you run that because it says, hey, visual pinball's not set up properly. Then you run PinballX. And then after all that talking that I've done, you should have a perfectly working machine. Like I said, with the media that I have, where you're seeing like the DMD where it says high scores and goes through that stuff, I haven't showed you how to add that yet. With my media, that was always just blank before. It didn't show it. It would just be black there. That's just the media. Like that's an MP4 file, and the MP4 file has black in the middle because that topper will stay up when I start the game. So I guess that's something I can talk to you next. Topper. Let's go into the database. I'll show you all the stuff with the database now. But it's a cool thing. It's a cool plugin that I just installed. So now when you're going through here, instead of it just being a black screen, I'm going to go to, what's the game I play all the time? Attack from Mars. So it's going to say Grand Champion. It's probably not me. I've gotten a higher score than that. probably not on this system. But actually it's kind of cool because it goes through and it shows you what the high scores are on the table, which is, there I am, number 3. It's kind of a neat feature. It's cool. A, it's better than just a black screen being there. And B, it's also kind of cool that you can just all see like all the different high scores that are on there. And it just reads those files off your NVRAM. I think it's the NVRAM that's in there. So every time you play a table and that updates, that will be updated, and it just gets updated automatically. So there's nothing that I physically had to do to make that work. It just works. Yeah, that's almost it with the front end. So let me show you. So I just closed that out. I guess I didn't. I was Alt F4. So if you, again, you're on the PinballX website, there is a plugins section. And there is a plugins, oh, and then I got to show you all the different media folders. Media folders. There's a plugins folder. So all you do is, like, what was one of the things? PBX stats display, I think is what it was. And it was just a DLL file. And you just drag it, you drop it, you put it in the PinballX folder, and then you go down to here and you go plugins manager. And then it says, hey, here's all your plugins. Which one do you want to activate? Statistics display, which was that one, and then configure, and then here it goes through. It's fairly easy to set up. Do you want it, like, there's different ways that you can make it look, right? So it says, hey, do you want it to look like that? Do you want it to look like an XDMD preview, which is how I had it, or do you want it to be like a flex DMD? I guess, whoops, preview. That one might actually look better. Who knows? Maybe I'll put it to that. Yeah, let's leave it there for now. But anyways, that's what that is. And then it just, so again, 100% optional. You don't have to put it in there. Based on my media setup, I like having that there because now it shows something versus nothing. That's basically it. That's how you configure it. That's everything there. So the only thing you guys don't have is your media files. So I can't really share the media files. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where the media files go. And then when you download them, it's literally just as easy as putting them in there. Or if you have a GameX login where you can just download the files, you just download them using the database manager, which I can show you, but I'm not set up for it. You can download PinballX database manager. And this looks then just like it does in Popper, the Popper manager basically. Visual PinballX, visual, new tables were found, no. Because that's my wrong one. There we go. So if I were to click on here and go ACDC and this guy, for example. So it says, hey, you've got all these files, you're missing this one, you're missing this one, you're missing this one. And then you can just click on them and then you can download it. Like normally you could right click it and says, hey, which ones do you want? Again, because I'm not set up for it, I'm not on the media FTP at the moment, then I don't have access to those files, but it shows you which ones you have and which ones you don't. Some of them, oh, yeah, enabled, Batman, Stern. So some of them are red and I know I have them, so I don't understand why. But anyways, it says some of them aren't there. So if you're missing a file, then you can just go through there and then you can see what you have and what you need to download. If you are downloading them by hand, they're going to go into your media folder and then whatever you have labeled as your PinballX. So again, I named mine Visual PinballX, but you can see there that I had one for VP995, one for Visual Pinball. There's Sega Model 2, PinballX, FX2, FX3. They're basically all the same folder structure. If I show you FX3, you've got all these ones, right? And then if I go to Visual PinballX, there's all these ones. There's only so many that you actually use. Wheel images are all, that's your wheel image. I can show you next time I'm in there. But basically it's just the, it's this thing. It's like the wheel art is what it's called. So this is where all your wheel ones go. And there's different ones. So you can see even here that I've got a whole bunch. So Agent 777, for example, I've got that one. If I didn't have that one, it could just be this, right? Like there's different versions of it, let's say. So someone will say, hey, I've got these, mine, my style is this. It could have a gray border around it. Well, maybe some other guy built it with a flaming logo, or it's gold instead of silver. He's like, wow, I really love the gold one, and then you got to re-download everything all over again just to get the gold ones. The new thing is our animated ones, which I don't think I have. Except Deadpool, I have one. You can see it here. So instead of Deadpool, this guy, I've got Deadpool APNG, which is the name of the file. 13 megabytes just to have it animated. Takes up a whole bunch more room. Who cares? Now my Deadpool is somewhat animated, which I think I can show you. Let's go back and see if I can show you that quick. Just so you can see what is possible and what does exist. Yeah, so what was it saying about Batman? Missing stuff. Batman's there, Batman's there. Yeah, looks like I have all the Batman stuff to me. What was it? Deadpool. There we go. So if you guys can see that, then there's Deadpool, there's explosions in the background, and it's animated. Just, wow, that just looks so much cooler than versus just a regular standing still piece of artwork, right? So again, now you got to download all your 1,000 or 1,500 or however many tables you have. You have to find all the media for that and download them all over again, just so it doesn't change. So let's go back to media, visual PinballX. So that's where your wheel art goes. So anytime you get a wheel image, it goes into your wheel image folder. When you have topper videos, so I downloaded all this one style of topper video. I give a shout out to the guy who did them all, except I don't know who it is off the top of my head. But they all have this kind of look to them. Let me just drag it to a different, to its proper screen so you can see it. So that's the file that it runs in PinballX. So again, it just has this blank space because you leave the DMD running the entire time. So you tell the front end, which if I remember, I'll show you how to do that. You just tell your front end, hey, leave that on all the time. Then it just stays there, and it's just this movie file that plays in the background. And then your dot matrix text actually goes on top of it in VPX. VPX just plays over top of that. So that's where your topper stuff goes. Again, topper is if you don't have a video, then that's just a picture topper. So as far as I know, this is probably just a PNG image. No, that's a video. I don't know why that's there. I might have that in the wrong folder. G.I. Joe. A real American. No. Oh, you know what? I probably removed it because it's not the right style. Table videos, this is your playfield videos, right? So that's the file that plays in the background on PinballX on your playfield. So that goes into the table videos. Table images is if you don't have a video of it, you can just put a PNG or an image file of it. So I didn't have one for the Elvira, so I just took a picture and then put it in there. Table audio, sometimes, and it's just how your media is done, sometimes you'll have, because technically we'll have a playfield video, we'll have a topper video, you'll have a backlash video. Maybe the topper has sound embedded into it. Maybe the table, the playfield, has sound embedded into it. So now you're getting sound from your playfield, you're getting sound from your DMD. The backlash generally doesn't have sound on it. So you'll have like multiple audio channels at the same time. So what a lot of people do is strip out all the audio channels from the video, the playfield, and from the topper. And then they just strip it out and you have just an audio file. So here you've got like Lucy Premium. Oh, I don't have my sound on. I don't know if you guys hear that or not. Who knows? But anyways, it's the sound of the video, but it's not in the video. It's got the sound stripped out. Launch audio, when you go and you launch a game, there's different sound bites that you can play. So if you got the fishtails when you launch it, maybe the fishtail guy goes, hey, go catch a big one or something. That's what those are. Again, 100% optional. Default video, backlash videos. And then this is the videos for all your backlashes. So that's where they go. So if you were to download a backlash video Again, these aren't backglass files. This isn't the stuff that you put in VPX. This is only for your front end. But if you were to go to, man, I can't remember the dude's name, but he's got a mega folder and he's like, hey, if you want this style of topper video, you just go to his, on Facebook, he's there, he's like, hey, this is my mega folder. So you go onto his mega folder and you just download all of them. But you're like, awesome, I downloaded them all. Now where the hell do I put them? This is where you put them. So you can see I don't have 400 games on my system, but this has 405 files already there. That's why when I added 007, this was the only file that actually showed up because I already have that in there. So if I went to backglass videos, we're going to see that 007 is not, right? I don't have the backglass file for it. And I am nearing the end. That's basically it. I wanted to show you the last thing, Visual PinballX. Oh, adding games and stuff. So this is what I was going to show you. Let me start over. When you have a game, if you download this database file, there's a couple things. Rating, whatever, I don't use those. You can put it on there so you can kind of say, hey, filter it to only show me, rated 5 games if you want. Enabled true or false, this will say, this basically true or false means, do you want me to show this to you in your PinballX front end? If you put false, I hide it. If you put true, then I show it. Hide backglass, true, that's because, again, these are MP4 videos. So in PinballX, it's saying, when you open it, we're going to show you the backglass file. As soon as you hit enter and load the game, what do you want me to do with that MP4 file? If you put backglass, hide backglass equals true, it's going to say, I assume you want me to close it. So it closes it out. Hide topper false. That's because it's saying, do you want to hide your topper when you start a game? I'm saying, no, I want you to show my topper, which is this screen here, so that MP4 that was playing in PinballX, keep it open because I want that as my overlay, or let's call it my background layer, so that when I'm playing in VPX, now my DMD goes in that black square that's in the middle and it looks all pretty. Hide DMD equals true. Again, so you want that as true because you want to hide it. Again, this is technically, when you're on a full screen one, this is a topper video. This isn't a DMD video. So all your high DMDs are basically going to be true. There are times when you want high topper equals false. Is that true or not? High topper. Oh yeah. If you're playing pup packs, and your pup pack, like let's say Guardians of the Galaxy or Harry Potter, different ones where you have, whoop, shit, what I hit. Close. If you have, let's say, a video popper on the backglass and you have a video on your topper, your DMD here, then you want to hide the topper because you want to be able to see this. Whereas it's going to muck up your layers and stuff if you have, popper trying to show you a video on this and then your backglass keeps refreshing, or not your backglass, your topper video keeps refreshing and tries to pop up. So when you have a pup pack, then you end up hiding them. You're going to know that you've done it wrong on a game-by-game basis because you're going to go and try and play the game and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I want to be seeing something on there and it's not there because it's hidden. Again, if you have, what I see is if you have like, let's call it like a basic table, a table that's already existed. So if I go here, extra tables, this is like my repository of games. So Bank-a-Ball from Gottlieb, 1965 type of thing. So I'm probably never going to install that game. It's a game. I downloaded it. Hey, do I like it? No. But if I were to take that and transfer it over, then when I'm in, do I still have it open? Yeah. Bank. Let's see if it's in here. Bank. It's not in there. Let's find another example. Something that does work. Extra tables. Atlantis. I'm sure that one's probably in there. Atlantis. No, it's not. Shocking. So I might be using an old at Apollo, Aqua Team, Asteroids, at Lita. That one was in there. So am I just typing it wrong? Okay, so at Lita Inder 1991. That one we saw is in there. Atleta Indir 1991. So we can see that it's there. So if you download that table, you can see that it's already in here. So this is, let's call it the back-end way to do it. You just open up the Visual PinballX table XML file, you hit edit, you go enabled false, you turn that into true, now all of a sudden it shows up in your front end. That's the back-end way to do it. If you wanted to do it, let's call it the legit way, PinballX. You would go to Game Manager, Visual PinballX. This is going to load up that entire database file. So I forget how many games. I don't know if this shows me, but maybe there's 700 games in here or something. Let's go down to Atleta. Atleta, Aqua, Astra, Atleta. There we go. So it shows that I already have my wheel art and stuff for it. So we would just click enabled true, and then all of a sudden it's going to show up in my front end. If you go through, so I forget what the other one was, maybe it was called Atlantis, and it's not there at all, you can click on add game, and then you just add it manually. I think, I could be wrong, I don't know if these show up. I think these show up based on what's in your tables folder. Right? So you could go and pick a game. I'm not going to actually click one because they're already installed. Yeah, this is definitely what's in your tables folder, which is why the backlash stuff shows up. So you'd click it there, and then if you have the ROM for it, then that's automatically. So these are actually the ones that are in your ROMs folder. So again, if you download like a ROMs pack or something like that versus getting them all individually, if you happen to find a ROMs pack, then hey, here's ROMs for 5,000 different games or something like that, and then you just throw them all in this one directory. Then when you do find a table that you want and you install it, then it'll automatically be in this list. So that Atleta, for example, is probably here. There we go, Atleta. And so is Atlantis, right? So Atleta would be there. So if I were to click on Atleta, you know what, let me just do that. Let me just show you how it works. Extra tables, because I'm going to eventually format this drive anyways. Atleta. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to copy, whoops, wrong file. So you're going to copy the VPX and the direct V2S file. You're going to go to your tables folder. You're going to hit paste. And you're going to go into your games manager. And because I already have it, whoops. The tricky part is knowing how to spell. Whoops, 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 cancel. Atleta. Enable. Yes. So I would go through here, I'd click Atleta, and then when I hit this, again, you type, I'm just showing you what I'm actually going to do even though it's already in there. Atleta Indir 1991. So just click it. So again, that's just saying the game and then the ROM. If it doesn't have a ROM, then that would just be blank, and then you could just type it in yourself, the description. It doesn't exactly have to match this. You can call that, oops, I'm on the wrong one. You can call that anything you want. You can call it, like this is what will show up in the taskbar, so I'll even just call it that. I'm going to type whatever, close bracket. Then I'm going to hit close. Do you want to save? Yes. So then when we go back into PinballX, C drive, PinballX, Atleta. There we go. Atleta. It's there. And if I click it, it will probably load. Oh, so that's, I did change it. So remember how I said, you know, one screen or one touch start? Well, now if I hit this, now it's not starting. I can hit information. I can go add to favorites, ratings, rate the game, whatever. I'm going to hit play game. And it should load, except I've never tested this game. There might be script errors. There might be terrible POVs on it. Look at the quality of that backlash. Oh, is this the actual table? Yeah, I don't know if this table's working or not. Good grief. Oh, one more. Yeah, I don't know if there's an NVRAM problem on this or a ROM problem, but my plunger's working, and my flippers are working, but the ball's not starting. But you can see that this table has not been updated in a long period of time. So again, this is why I don't put all these terrible games on my drive, because I'm never going to play this table. It was probably made back in the early versions of Visual Pinball, and because it's just such a nothing table, no one's updated it. I don't even think it looks English. I can guarantee it's not English. So yeah, but that's how you add a table from VPX in there. Wow, the stream is super delayed. Super delayed. But I think, I'm just going to go through my little notes here, but I think I've covered everything I want to cover.